I didn't even know I was going to light a fire until Friday night. So sorry, Alan. I didn't ask for permission. Just did it. Where is he? I don't know. Maybe it's good. But only people that knew was Aaron Johnson, because I bought a metal trash can from him at Home Depot. He was mixing up paint, and I told Brian so he could be holding a fire extinguisher. But that was it. So tonight, as we continue to Habakkuk, nothing really changes. But we're going to look at it through the viewpoint of a parent. But this is all about vision. And for some of our we've got lots of people in here that went through the children's and young adults ministry class in LFBI. We just finished a couple weeks ago. And we hit Habakkuk just ever so slightly one of the weeks, and so they've even heard a decent amount of a version of this stuff. But this vision, this is for everything. Like, this vision is how to parent, how to be married, this vision could be your business vision. This is how to run a ministry, and so it's. Habakkuk has one of the most practical, just a verse that's just so practical, and it's all about vision, and so that's ultimately what we're going to be studying today. We're going to look through it as the lens of a parent, but really, just like this morning, it's all about you. And so wherever you are at life, Habakkuk knows that, I have corrections that need to be made. And so this, with parenting, it doesn't start with our kids. It starts with us. And so I'm not going to tell Connor, obey your parents over and over and over again. But I want Connor this morning, just as Mike and Sarah did, the same thing. How can I correct myself? The goal of biblical counseling is just to get people to self-counsel. And so that's it's literally like every sermon. We're just trying to get it so when you read the Bible, you see yourself in it, and it instructs you. So as we continue through Habakkuk, your strategy as parents should answer this question: how are we going to do this? I got to do something, right? And I can't tell you guys how you're going to do it, because every household is unique. Every household is different. You want to spank with your hand, or you want to use a little wooden spoon. I don't really care. The Bible talks about the rod, so you ain't going to go wrong if you do that. But I feel like there's probably plenty of liberty where you can use your hand. Or if you just don't want to spank at all, that's fine. I probably wouldn't advise it. Be a little spoiled, but that's okay. So all this, you really have to. And you don't have to flip there now, but on the second to last page of the book is kind of a self-reflection page of just what does this mean for me and my family? And so you can even look at that tonight and everything. But how are we going to fulfill the mission? Daily, weekly, yearly? How are we going to do it as a family? It's got to start with Habakkuk 1. Your kids have to see you seek the Lord. Your kids need to see you go through burdens. I know none of us want to go through hardship, but they need to see those burdens come in our life, and our kids need to see us cast that burden to the Lord. And so, it's not going to be gossip-filled burdens. It's not going to be drama-filled. We're not going to add confusion to the situation, but it's going to be clear communication to the Lord, because our kids are going to copy whatever they see. So, do you give, just a summary of this morning, do you give God the first dime out every dollar, the first moment out every day, and the first day of every week, Sunday? And because, there's almost no chance for our kids to do that if we aren't. And so Brandon said the verse already before we started singing, but Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. The word train goes so far beyond once saved, always saved. praise the Lord that, man, once saved, always saved. That is awesome. That is amazing. Our spirit is sealed. But in that moment, we are simply saved by the skin of our teeth. Like, man, we're sealed in heaven, and that is awesome. But we have the rest of our life to run the course and collect eternal rewards, and most importantly, drag others with us. like, man, just to evangelize. And that piece requires training, and training is largely done at home. So this will be the big stat I kind of start to give you, but this Kinneman and Madlock research from Barna concluded that young people between the ages of 15 and 23, so kind of our grads are right there, they consume 2,737 hours of social media a year. Point of reference, a 40-hour-a-week job equals 2,080 hours a week, or a year. So they are on social media more than some people work. Another point of reference, 8 hours of sleep a night. If you do that every night, you'll get 2,920 hours of sleep. So young people are literally sleepwalking. They consume content like it's sleep or like it's a job. That is the equivalent of 115 days, 115 24-hour days, a third of the year on social media. And, this is the stat for kids, but I imagine adults aren't too far behind. Compare that to the average of 153 hours that they take in of spiritual content a year. So we are up against 115 days of social media versus 153 hours of spiritual content. So another kind of point of reference. This number was kind of mind-boggling once I calculated it. I'm here at church where you guys can join me, or where we come together as a body. So whether that's Sunday morning, that's Sunday night, that's Wednesday night, that's Bible studies, it's mission trips, it's conferences, it's camps, it's praise practice, whatever it is. But this is just like really youth for the most part. I'm here for about 800 hours a year, and so I'm sure, man, when I was really thinking about this number, I'm like, I want to figure out Ron Griffin's hours. He's up here almost every night helping counsel people, and he's here for praise team and this and all these things. And so we're here a lot, and we're not just here by ourselves, but we're here in a way that other people can come join us. So literally, if your child just takes advantage of the local church, they can multiply that 153-hour average by 5, 800 plus. And it's also just neat that just naturally kind of comes up to about 10% of the year. And as Brandon said, like, man, he really just lost it when he saw Kristen at church. And so it's cool to see that we have our doors open enough that man, our members can spend 10% of their life just easily here at church or at mission trips or at ACR and just in fellowship of believers. And so, it's kind of cool that you can tithe even your time to the church. So again, these are big numbers, 2,767 social media hours versus 153 spiritual hours. 115 days versus 6 days. God did a lot with 6 days, but our kids, I think they need some help. So with all this stat, all of it, it's summed up in this, man. Now tell me, who's influencing your children? So we can get mad at our teachers, we can get mad at school, we can get mad at political agenda, we can, but the training starts at home. And we as a church are here to be your partner. And so let's break down the word train before we really get into Habakkuk. And it's cross-references Ephesians 6:4. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in nurture and admonition of the Lord. So what is train not? Well, it's not provoking your children to wrath, to rage, to fury, to annoyance, to outrage, to exacerbation, to extreme anger, anger that becomes sin. So if your parenting style and counseling style has this as the outcome on a regular basis, there's a good chance that you're doing something wrong. Now, you could just have the spawn of Satan as a child. But there's a good chance that you're like, man, every time I talk to them, they just get angry. Well, maybe it's how you're talking to them. But what is training? Well, training here it's protecting them from sin. That's a part of this. The nurture is to educate, to care, to provide, to support, to tend, to feed, to nourish. And in admonition, it's to instruct, to rebuke, to reprove, to warn. And then we see the only other mention of the word train in the Bible that's referred to this type of training, Genesis 14:14. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. So yes, training is protecting, but training is also preparing them for battle. So on one side, training is very, nurturing and caring and loving, and then on the other, it's teaching them how to wield the sword and how to use the Word of God. The study goes on and it breaks down that when you subtract all the things you have to do, like sleeping, dressing, brushing your teeth, breakfast, travel, school, work, lunch, travel again, dinner, ministry, homework, clubs, travel again, and prepare for sleep again, just to wake up and do it all over again. Like, when that's your day, you have an average of 35 minutes of face-to-face time with your kids, where you're multitasking, you're not trying to do something else, but 35 minutes of just you and your kid time a day. And so it seems like an impossible task, right? Like, well, I can't create time. Like, I have to go to work. I have to go to bed. I can't just not sleep and talk to my kid all night. But so yes, that's true. But man, praise the Lord for how God can multiply our lives. So Ephesians 5:16, redeeming the time because the days are evil. So, man, we don't need to conduct our own research to find out the world is evil and broken. Like, we don't need any stats for that. There's plenty of them. But man, we know this from the Word, and we know this just from experiencing life. Colossians 4:5 also breaks it down into walk in wisdom toward them that are without, redeeming the time. So we can redeem all time. Both these verses, they talked about two different types of time in particular. It says time within an evil place. In Ephesians, it specifically said, what was the verbiage? Because the days are evil. And so yes, the world is an evil place. But also, this said, man, we can walk in wisdom to them that which are without. So this is, man, we can redeem the time with a lost people. So our time at work with lost people isn't wasted. Our time within the world doesn't have to be wasted. Wherever we're at, that time does not have to be wasted. This isn't about creating more time in the day, but transforming every moment. Transform wake up, transform breakfast, transform travel, transform free time, and we have to be intentional. Man, this was the beauty of back in the day. Dinner at a dining room table. Like that is more than just eating. And so that's what we're going to keep finding over and over again as we go through this vision of our family. What exactly does this mean? So because family is the first established ministry, your strategies are your next blank here. Your strategy supports that ministry mission and vision. Your responsibility is to implement the steps and structures needed to carry out the mission and vision. Your leadership should answer the question, who will make it happen? So, man, how are we going to do this? Who's going to do it? Who will champion the ministry? Who will champion my house? Well, man, that's obviously you. Your leadership should ensure the mission and the vision are accomplished and the strategy is executed. So your leadership drives the mission. It's not Pastor Allen. It's your leadership drives the mission, vision, and strategy. And just like this morning, it's your responsibility to bring the family along in fulfilling the mission the vision and the strategy. So we have this vision casting formula here where you identify the problem, and then you have to introduce the solution, and you have to interpret the purpose. And we have to do this. The verse isn't up here, but one of the most famous verses on vision, Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. That perish word could be translated as is made naked. Man, we would have a lot of naked little children running around if we had no vision at this church. But is he that keepeth the law, happy is he. And why we have to be so clear and so strong with all of this is because the world is so good at countering it. Like, they're doing this. They have a problem, they have a solution, and it's all for their purpose, all for the prince of the air's purpose. And so, man, it all sums up in 1 Timothy 6:10. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some covet it after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through many sorrows. So, man, you know, we got all these social media stats and all that, and it makes it seem like social media is evil and this and that. But really, it's just a form of making money. That's all it is. And it's just advertisement. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, it doesn't care about the content on these apps. All it cares about is the content is consumed. So it's the same from newspapers to radio to television to internet. It's all about your time. It just wants your eyes on that screen, so it has time to show you ads. So you have time to spend more money and more time on that. And it just means more money for them. That's all of it. It's the root of all evil. The love of money. And so everyone's just, half of the time, they may not even be out to get your children. But they do want your children's eyes on the screen because your children help them make money. And so it's been this way forever. It was this way in Timothy's time, in Paul's time. But now it's just a different package. So 1 Timothy 6:10 was true 2,000 years ago, and it still is. And it's kind of weird to think how the Bible is timeless at times. It's like, no, the Bible didn't have the internet. But, man, it's so timeless. And we get caught up in the details, and I'm almost sorry to tell you that the details of parenting aren't really going to be hit today. You can save all your specific questions for Alan on our Q&A Wednesday. I mean, the pastors will be up there, but let's be honest. Like what I'm going to do, sitting in a chair with Alan next to me, and someone asks a question, it's like, well, who's going to get that one? I mean, you can let me talk, Alan, and I'll waste 5 minutes of everyone's life, and then you can just do it better. But yeah, and man, I almost felt we have quite a few couples in here that went to the marriage conference down in Nashville, and you go there and you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to learn how to be a better husband, and I'm going to learn how to be a better wife, and I'm going to learn this and that, and then the whole conference was just a worship conference. And you're like, what? I thought this was a marriage conference, but yeah, they're like, well, yeah, you gotta have your motives right. You gotta worship the true God. You've got to be in love with Jesus, and if you don't do that, how are you going to love your spouse? And so that's kind of what, as we go through Habakkuk with parenting, man, we're going to see the foundation of all of this. But here we're finally there. We're back to Habakkuk chapter 2. We're casting the vision. Verse 2 says, and the Lord answered me and said, write the vision, make it plain upon tables, that ye may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. So we're gonna hit our 6 C's here coming up of just like, man, how to cast a vision. These are things that, man, we're responsible for as parents, that our kids are there, and man, we've got to come up with some version of a plan at home that fulfills all these requirements. So that first part of the verse, the Lord answered me. So our first C is confident. Like, we can be confidently be parents. I know it seems tough, and it seems like every day you're getting hit with something new that you didn't even know existed, and you're just like, oh my gosh, what is going on? But your confidence can't come from anywhere else but the Lord. And if it comes from other places, or man, you're done. And so, man, the Lord answered me. You're confident. And the next part of the verse says, write the vision that readeth it. Man, this is communication here. And so complicated is no good. Like, you're writing a vision, and someone's going to read it. Like, you have to clearly communicate how that, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Well, cool, awesome, but you got to communicate that with your family. And then here we're going to see, well, how? The next part of the verse says, make it plain. So your vision's just going to be clear. It doesn't have to be super detailed. Just like the Bible, just like the Constitution of the United States, it's plain, it's simple. The freedom of speech, it's simple. Our forefathers didn't know to write about the internet and cell phones and how fast communication would travel. Like, they're just like, man, we know that there's this general right that needs to be protected. And also the Bible. The Bible knows that the tongue is a small rudder that can control a giant ship. So we know how important communication is, and we know that it needs to be plain, and that it needs to be simple, it needs to be timeless. Proverbs 8:9 says, they are all plain to him that understandeth, and right to them that find knowledge. So man it's got to be plain. Our kids have to know, man, we are disciplers. We are evangelists. We have a mission. We have a purpose. We have an eternal purpose. And so we just got to communicate that to our kids. I almost get so happy when we watch a Pixar movie or Disney movie and it just full-blown shows like the way of the world. And man, it's so easy and simple to talk to my kids and be like, well, this is not the way of the Word of God. This is not the way of the Bible. And it's just these learning moments that I can show them how God moves and how Satan counters, and how God designed it and how man wants to recreate it. And it's just, man, every single thing can be a clear, simple learning experience. The next part of the verse, it says, man, put this upon tables. So this just means it's going to be concise. It, technically, it can fit on a table. Sure, there's hundreds of Old Testament laws, but, at one point, God's just like, you know what, I need to put 10 of them on a stone tablet. And he probably busted out an iPad Pro and that type of tablet. And so man, he boiled it down to 10. And then Jesus later boiled it down to 2. Love God and love others. And so we just have to be concise. We don't want this to be like a sport. And when someone breaks a rule, I can think, man, my brother, he's scarred for life with Tom Brady's first Super Bowl as he beat the Oakland Raiders. He's a Raiders fan, and Tom Brady clearly pump fakes the ball, fakes the pass, goes back like this, gets just leveled by Charles Woodson on a cornerback blitz, and fumble as clear as day. And then the refs are like, well, according to the rule book, Article 13, Section B, because he threw that but didn't really want to throw it, and he changed his mind, and because he tucked it into his body in such a way, that's technically an incomplete pass. And you're like, what? And so, man, we can't do that to our kids. We can't, well, you can do that. And, no, we just need to be concise. We don't need a rule book that, like, we need a mansion just to fit it in. So man, and then the last, man, this has got, it's got to start to be practical, that he may run. That this is for our children's benefit, that they may run, that they may finish their course, and so it needs to be compelling. And there's no better way to be compelling than to be an example and show them that it's beneficial, that you can do it and that they can do it. You have to practice what you preach. That's the easiest way to make it practical. It's just practicing what you preach. And you're showing them that it's attainable, that you're showing them, oh, I can do all things. I mean, if there's a fear you have that you won't ever conquer, it's really hard to tell your kid to be like, oh, no, go to the junior choir performance. You can do it. You can get on stage and sing. And they're like, well, Mommy, but I never see you get on stage and sing. Be like, oh, ouch. Like, and luckily, Allison's got that one covered. I don't have to do that because also Brandon won't let me on stage to sing. He heard how I hit that high note when I yelled fire. Was that pretty good? This is kind of like a dying animal. But this has got to be attainable. And then last, it's got to be consistent. Where there is no vision, the people perish. So this is a lifestyle. This is let this vision transform your life. It goes on in verse 4. It says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Now, Alan can go into a super doctrinal part of the just shall live by his faith, but I'm not smart enough to do that. But, man, faith is such a beautiful thing. Just, man, beholding our soul and how it works is such a beautiful thing. I just want to quickly view souls how God views souls. In 2 Peter 3:9, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long-suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. So you guys, I mean, you're Sunday night church folk. You're educated. And so we know there's two eternal things on this decaying earth, the Word of God and the souls of men. And, man, we love the Word. At Harvest Baptist Church, it is our absolute authority. We love it. Man, man, it is immovable. Like, it is a solid foundation. We ain't going nowhere. But if we're being honest, the eternal soul of our neighbor loves a hard word. I can give it a we like. No. This is just me personally speaking. Man, I love the word, but souls are just as eternal as that word. I need to love it. But I let a lot of things get in the way of that love. And we need to view each and every soul as precious as the word. And yes, there's some people we need to mark and stay away from and not to answer a fool. But those are mainly puffed up Christians. And so, but I say this for our kids, like, man, we have to love their soul. We have to love all of them. And we can't get proud, and that's where we're headed in Habakkuk. Behold the lifted up, the elevated, the proud soul. It's not right. We must live by faith. Paul quotes this twice in the New Testament, Romans 1:17, for therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. He writes it again in Galatians 3:11, but no man is justified by the law in the sight of God. It is evident for the just shall live by faith. And then Peter gets in on the action in Hebrews 10:38. I'm going to say Peter. Some people say not Peter, but if it ain't Peter, I don't know who wrote it. It's Peter. I don't know. Fight me afterwards. Peter 10:38. Now the just shall live by faith, but if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure with him. So we don't live by only intelligence, but by faith. And sometimes we mix that up in parenting. A lot of times with parenting, we want to use like facts and logic and our mind and our big brains. But man, we can't forget about the heart. We can't forget about faith. We got to make it plain and not proud. Charles Spurgeon said, but God cannot bear pride. It is a part of his daily business to put down the proud. Oh, that's humbling. Like, man, I do not want to show up on God's work list. You know, someday as God's like, all right, who to put down today? Garrett Ogle. That's going to be an easy one. Ron Griffin. No, I just started saying everyone in the booth. No, sorry. I love you guys. It's just, but then yeah, I had to stop after Ron. I had to stop after Ron. Alan would have been next. But man, why do we need this vision? Why is this vision so important with parenting? And it's because the enemy has a vision. The enemy has an alternate. And man, in Habakkuk, the rest is just talking about kind of how disgusting the world is. The alternative that our kids have, but honestly, like some of these, it's easy. You're like, oh, that's not my house. But some of these are like, oh, geez, my kids experience that in our house because that's me sometimes. And this first one does hit hard. Woe to the proud. Verse 5 says, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keeping at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. But gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Man, this, I think of kids, this one probably hurts my soul more than any. A child doesn't even have a chance of pleasing a prideful parent. Like, the proud cannot be satisfied. And I know those adults exist in the world. And I know those adults have children. And man, that hurts. The proud cannot be satisfied. Ecclesiastes 5:10 says, he that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loveth abundance with increase. This is also vanity. I experienced this type of proud parenting in college. One of my best friends in college, Tim Bush, he's now a pilot in the Air Force. Tried to meet up with him in Florida just a month ago or so. It didn't happen, but he's super smart, 6'3", all muscle, no body fat, very similar to my build. And his dad's a mirror image of him, just, man, and both military guys. And when Tim graduated number 2 in his class in college, I met his father for the first time, and he greeted him as a prideful father, not a proud father. And his first response to Tim, the first response I ever heard this man say in his life was, what? How'd you finish second? Like, he was just never satisfied. Second in his class of a huge group of dudes. And man, at this point, Tim's pretty old, and he probably took it pretty well. But, like, I was there like, oh, this hurts me. Contrast to my firstborn son, Bo. Bo couldn't speak a word till he was 4. He literally couldn't say mom or dad till his 4. And it's fine now. You can't shut him up now. But the wires in his brain to his muscles were just weak, and they needed extra repetitions. His muscle to brain I remember being in the lobby with Troy and Jen Stocks. I was a complete mess, just crying, telling them of one of the first deep conversations I had with Bo. At this point, he's probably 4.5, getting close to 5, and eventually I had to cry, right? Worse than just a little bit. But Bo told me he was stupid. And the preschool that he went to, we weren't allowed to use the S word. Stupid. So in a way, this was Bo's, also his first cuss word. But he was fully aware of his struggles. And I could have been like Mr. Bush and just agreed with him. Like, yeah, you are. I don't know why you're bottom of your class, you big dummy. But man, children need to know Psalms 139:14. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works. and that my soul know it right well. Bill, can you stop clearing your throat to stop crying? I've been around Bill too long to know he's crying. I'm not even looking at him. But man, are we often too proud or busy to let them know biblical truth? Our kids need to know this truth. And parenting is hard, but it's really simple. It's built on intentionality. Are you intentionally pouring the love of God into them? So God, he comforts Habakkuk. The Babylonians were the perfect example of the proud who set themselves against to declare, who are declared just by faith. And Habakkuk could take comfort in the fact that God would deal with them. So we can't go about life as proud Christians. And our kids will see right through that. They will see that you're never satisfied. They will see that you're not content with them. And again, parenting doesn't start with your children. It starts with you, just like Habakkuk 1. Job 5:3 says, I have seen the foolish taking root, but I curse his habitation. Man, God's going to take care of the fools. And sometimes that means God's going to take care of us. But we are more experienced in our kids. We have seen it. We've been there. We've done that. And yet we often wonder why, but we have to frame everything in a biblical context. We have to frame everything as God the Father working for good. The prince of the air is trying to disrupt Christians, and he's trying to prevent you from being a Christian. And once you are a Christian, he wants to just make you a worthless Christian. And that's what's happening in the world. And so one of the alternatives Habakkuk hits is woe to the greedy. Woe to him that coveteth and evil contentiousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. So the greedy man does his best to protect himself. He sets his nest on high, yet all his best defenses come to nothing. Faith has to be our home's fortress. We have to have a fortress of faith. We're going to get what we put in, right? So our kids' actions, what comes out of them, is 100% based on the actions that we put into them. And so don't covet what you think you can create. Let your children see God's hand at work. The next woe is the woe to the violent. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood and establish a city by iniquity. Behold, it is not of the Lord of hosts that the people shall labor in the very fire, and the people shall weary themselves for very vanity. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. There's violence all around us. Man, woe is right. But we don't stop there, because through the violence, our kids need to be shown the glory of God, just as verse 14 said. You know, like, woe is right. But again, don't stop there. 1 Corinthians 15:55, O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? So when a violent story comes on the news, share them 1 Corinthians 15:55. Like, man, death, where is its sting? Man, for the Christian, these are the promises we get to hold on to. Will our kids hear us speak more about the need for political reform or gospel reform? Please care. Please vote. But show your kids you can be a Christian no matter who's president. And the next is woe to the drunk. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him, and maketh him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskins be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. Drunkenness is a waste of resources that should be submitted to Jesus. Substances are shortening our lives. The desire is destroying our families. And this is where we really need to protect our kids when it comes to technology. So substance has been centralized, it's been sexualized, it's been weaponized against our children, and the world promotes all of it. And whether it's a pour of a drink, or if it's the puff of a smoke, or it's porn, parents better not be promoting it. Because again, there's houses where this is not true. It's one thing to be doing it in private and not letting your kids know, but there's plenty of houses in America where all three of these things are literally promoted and done in front of the children. And man, so we got to pray for those kids, and we got to reach those kids. And then next is woe to the idolater. Woe unto them that saith to the wood, awake, and to the dumb stone, arise, it shall teach. Behold, it is laid over with gold and silver, and there is no breath at all in the midst of it. But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. So, man, sometimes it's easy to be like, I ain't a drunk. I ain't violent. But, man, the idolater, this can hit close to home. Woe to them who treat inanimate objects as if they had life and intelligence. Oh, man, I know I like stuff, so I can just imagine we all here, we like stuff. But through all of these woes, through all of the vision, the point is proven that Habakkuk couldn't understand why God would judge a sinful nation, Judah, by an even more sinful nation, Babylon, until he just took a stand on the Lord. And so God reminds Habakkuk of his wisdom and strength and of his ultimate triumph over the wicked. God knew that Babylon was filled with the proud, greedy, violent, drunk, and idolaters, and the Lord knew how to deal with it all. So here's the point. Verses 4 through 20 showed us that what we see in Babylon, that's the world. Verses 4 from 20, that's the world. But what we cling on to as parents is verses 1, 2, 3. We make a stand like Habakkuk did, and what do we stand on? We stand on the Lord's vision, and it showed us how to dwell. How do we dwell with the Lord? How do we stand for him, but not just stand for him, we live with him. And this vision that the Lord has should be our vision, and the key point is you have to have the Lord's vision and not rely on your own. So, man, where was Habakkuk? Where would his family have been if he had one? They were in the watchtower. So you have to think about your family. Is your family in the watchtower? And man, as I look out on this crowd, there's literally so many great examples of the watchtower in this room. And really, the one that hits the home for me is a quote by one of you in this room. And I think it hit so hard because I've seen it lived out for years now. And I know it's not just words, that this is how she parents her family. And I want to be able to say this quote. But I get stuck in that rut of sometimes viewing my kids as in the way. But here's the quote. Parenting is a joy because from my end, I choose it to be. It's so simple. It's from Rachel Bowman, which, by the way, they're leaving me, the jerks. No, but this coming Sunday is Jesse and Rachel's last Sunday in the upper room. They don't want me to say that, and Rachel's mad at me for probably saying this quote, but man, I see them so intentional with their kids. I don't know if there's another couple that I've seen be so intentional with their kids. And parenting is a joy because from my end, I choose it to be. I won't say their name, but there's someone. They don't go here no more. But like, man, I know they're trying to be funny on Facebook. But man, she makes fun of her kids all the time and just like, oh this and oh that, and like, oh, I would do this, but I have kids. I have these little demons, and it just like, oh, and it just grows so old. And then I think I'd seen that over and over and over again. And Rachel shared this back in February, and it was just so refreshing. And so with that, I will pray, and we'll kind of hit our next piece here. We're gonna talk about opportunities at Harvest, but here I'll pray first. Lord, I thank you for this group of adults. I thank you for this group of just even kids in here, Lord, that they need to get with your vision. They need to know how their life is actually very simple, that it's very plain, that these are a plan. They can make a plan. That this isn't this unachievable thing. This isn't just a vision's not something that only Jeff Bezos at Amazon had. He had a great vision, and obviously it worked. But no, this is a vision that you have for us. To live lives that glorify you and that train up our children in the way they should go, and that, Lord, man, I just pray that we latch on to and cling to your way of doing things. Man, I just pray for the people that are about to come up, and just as they share ministries at Harvest, that we just learn how you have knitted us together as a body that's just here to support each other. We love you and thank you in Christ's name. Amen. All right. I definitely had a Brandon moment tonight. It's like I got through so much without crying, and then it just slaps you in the face. So next, opportunities. So we've got. I put Man Camp on there. I didn't tell Jesse that he's not going to come up and talk, so don't freak out, Jesse, if you just saw that and you're like, what? But I think, is it Jen's here to talk about Mom's Group at all a little bit? Maybe? Oh, no, Courtney's here. See, I know just enough to be dangerous. Hope. So this is Courtney Richter, leader of Mom's Group. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Well, it was on, and I turned it off. Sorry. And so, get the tomatoes out and the rotten fruit that we can throw at her.
This is a different viewpoint from that I'm used to. So I'm here to share with you about Mom's Group. If you haven't heard of it, we've been around for a few years, but it kind of started with a mom with 4 kids, kind of at the end of her rope. She had 4 kids, and every day, all day, it was her and 4 kids. So she thought, I need time with adults, and that's kind of how Mom's Group started here. And some of the vision came from MBT and other churches that also have had Mom's Groups, and so we just continued it. It's done really well over the years. It's kind of a group we bring our kids sometimes, but it's really for the moms. We do have fellowship with our kids, and we let our kids fellowship with each other, but we really want it to be for the moms. And so with that, there's kind of some, 3 different parts, I would say, is that we try to encourage one another, because sometimes you're the mom that's struggling just to get through the day, and you need that encouragement, and sometimes you're the mom who's been in those struggles and has overcome them. We really work to empower each other, and part of that is how do we train our kids, right? And learning how to do that, but also learning how to keep ourselves in order and in the Word and our relationship well, because just like on the airplane when they tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself first and then your kids, you got to do that with your relationship with God. It's got to come first, and then you can train your kids. Then you can pass that on to them. And then the third one is to enjoy. It's to enjoy our time with our kids, because it's 18 years, but it's 18 days, right? Like, you blink and they've grown 3 feet. But it's also to enjoy time with each other. We want genuine relationships, and that's what we try to really build, is genuine relationships with each other. We're not trying to gossip about each other. We're not trying to, put our families down when we're together. We're really just trying to build that community that has genuine relationships. So on the days that you're struggling, you've got somebody to reach out to. And on the days that you've got an extra hand, you can be that extra hand for that other mom. So we've recently changed our meeting times. We are meeting now on the second Friday of the month, 6:30 p.m. Over the summers, we still like to just relish in that fellowship. It's kind of our downtime, but we really want to hold on to that fellowship. During the school year, we work on studies, or whether it's like a book study, or whether it's getting in the Bible study, or whether it's, last year we did I guess you call it like a video study of the birds and the bees. Like that, we kind of pick different things that seem relevant at the time. And so we usually hit those during the school year. But also I want to mention that we're not just moms with littles, right? We want moms with littles, but we want moms with bigs, and we want moms with the grown and flown kids, right? Like we don't care what age and stage you're in. We just want you to be a part of it. So I think that's all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm also real excited about the Richters. In the last, in the last year, they started helping us in the upper room, and so here soon we'll get BJ preaching. I love that he's the head of our safety and keeps us safe, but we're gonna get him preaching. And then next, I believe, is Stephanie here. Oh, she's real nervous. She called me last night and she said, I don't want to be fired after this. And I was just like, what? And she's like, yeah. But this is Stephanie Ogle. She is one of our co-directors of the Harvest Kids in the Morning, along with Andrea Ryan, and then the Tuleys run the pre-K. So she is a part of the four-headed beast. I don't know. I don't know. This is important.
Awesome. All right, thank you. So I just first want to say that God sure has a funny way of answering our prayers. For months, I have been praying of how do I get our parents encouraged? How do I help our parents find ways that their kids can serve? And so when Brett and Allison had said that they were going to do a parenting conference, I was like, great, yeah, that's great. Just don't put me on stage. And then Allison said, hey, you're going to talk about how kids can serve in Harvest Kids, and you're going to do it on stage. I'm like, thanks, God. So, no, I love it. I talk at work a lot, and I get up on stage a lot at work, and so this is a little bit different, but we'll get through it. So just really briefly, I wanted to talk to you guys about why it's important for our kids to serve, have a servant's heart, and then how we can also here at Harvest help them serve. So the first one being serving strengthens our children's relationship with our church. When they have a sense of ownership in church, they have a sense of belonging. They want to bring their friends. They want to tell their friends about God. They want to include them in VBS. They want to include them in Awanas. And what better way for our kids to share the gospel than to bring them into church? If they, see a friend in need, they can go to that friend and say, hey, let me tell you about God. And they learn this in Harvest Kids. When they see a teacher needing help passing out supplies, if they have a servant's heart, they will go to that teacher and say, hey, do you need help? And I think as parents that we need to remind those kids when they do see a friend in need, to go up to them. When they do see a teacher needing help, that they can go to that teacher. Because trust me, our teachers in Harvest, they love it when our kids help. They love it when they pass out snacks. They love it when our kids pass out materials. And we just need to remind our kids to always have a servant's heart. Rather than letting others serve our kids, then our kids are learning to serve others. They recognize that when a new kid comes into class, that they need to go up to that new kid and say, hey, come on, let's do this activity together. Or here, I can share my Bible with you. And all of these things can lead to blessings and a sense of joy and belonging into the church. And rather than our children learning worldly values, I would rather them learn godly values in here in church, because the world has no problem teaching our kids values that we don't believe in, and we have a responsibility to teach our kids biblical truth. The second one is, even young kids can have gifts and passions. A kindergartner can have a passion and a gift of leading others. They can lead a song in their classroom. They can lead story time. They can act out a story. And so we just need to encourage our kids to not be afraid of who they are. If they, not all kids have great voices, I'm telling you. I wish they all did, but they don't. But it is not us to tell them, oh, you don't have a good voice. You're not good at acting. We are to encourage our kids. We are to encourage our kids to be that person that takes initiative to read a scripture verse. Our teachers do a really good job of having our kids read verses. And some of them may not be the greatest readers, and that's okay. But as parents, we can also help them at home read the verses. If they're in Awanas, help them memorize those verses. Teach them what it means, what those verses means. With ours, we have them look up in the Bible what that word means. We have them cross-reference it. And so my hope is that our kids will be able to teach other friends, teach other kids how to do cross-references. Because really, kids are not ever too young to learn how to study the Bible. I know for me, my passion and my gift is helping people, helping kids, and I'm so thankful that my mom, as a young age, allowed me to have areas in church that I was able to help out. And so as a young age, I was able to find where my gifts and where my passions were at. And serving also releases spiritual blessings. Again, all ages can receive a blessing, kids can receive a blessing, and when they are serving others, then they feel such joy. There are so many times where I ask, hey, can you go get this copy? And their faces light up. It's so amazing. I'm just like, really? It's just a piece of paper that I'm just asking you to go grab. But they feel a sense of belonging. And when they feel a sense of belonging, then when they are teenagers, they will want to go to upper room. They would rather go to Friday night Bible studies instead of going to their friend's house with little or no supervision. They will want to go to ACR. They will want to go to youth camp. And it all starts with us, for those that have younger kids, teaching them at a young age what it means to serve and receiving those blessings. And then lastly, it shows them how God moves. It shows them that when they share the gospel with their friends that they bring to church, that, even they can bring a kid to know Christ. If our kids are saved, then they have a responsibility to preach the gospel to others. I know that for some of our kids that it is hard to talk about God, but as parents, we are responsible to just teach them and to make it natural. I know our teachers do a great job of just giving life examples of times that they've shared the gospel, or even, on the playground, somebody gets hurt or somebody is afraid to even die, or a grandpa or a grandma has passed away. And we had one example in a 5th grade classroom where their aunt passed away. And so they were asking their teacher, how can I help my friend who is sad? And so our teacher was able to teach our kid how to share the gospel. And that kid went back to the playground, back to the classroom, and was able to tell them that, we need Jesus. If you don't know where you're going to go when you die, let me tell you. And so it's not just our teachers' responsibilities, but it's also us as parents. And I know it can be hard. I know, man, I got 4 kids. And, we're, this week, every single night, we are doing something. But just finding those little intentional moments to help our kids. So how can we, as parents, get our kids involved? How can we serve? There's so many opportunities. If you have an upper room kid, they can help serve in K through 5th. If you have an elementary kid, they can serve in preschool. Our church gives out baggies to new visitors. Pick up a bag, get with your Sunday school pastor, pick up a bag, have your kid go with you to deliver that bag. Even if it's picking out a family that is new, that has kids your kids' age, the pastors will work with you. If it's somebody in need of a meal, have your kids help you prep that meal. Have them deliver it to them. There's so many opportunities that we have here. If you're a greeter, have your kids greet at the door with you. Have them pass out the bulletins. If you're parking lot attendant, just kind of walk around with your kids and show them. If you're the sound booth, teach your kids. There's so many opportunities that all of our kids, I would hope at some point or another, is able to serve. So we need to lead, obviously, by example. So right now we have, I'm going to do a little shameless plug, 15 slots available that we need teachers' assistants, we need bathroom runners. And if we aren't serving, then our kids don't see it as important as serving. And I know, like I said earlier, if we're not teaching our kids, then the world will teach them, and the world will just take off with them, and it is hard to drag our kids back in. And so we need to start at a young age. These little eyes look up to us, and we want to do good, and I know it's hard to get here at 8 o'clock and then leave at 12:30. But I have found so many times that when I am tired, when I am struggling, when I'm overwhelmed, God has given me the strength. God has given me abundance of strength to allow me to serve in areas where I didn't think I could serve. And so I know, the whole, come into one service and serve another, I don't know. To me, I don't know. It's just not that hard, I guess. But I was hoping that all of our teacher positions, and not even teacher positions, but assistants can be filled. So I would just encourage you that if you are not currently serving somewhere, and I know so many of us are, whether it be door greeters or whether it be in Harvest Kids or in Upper Room or anywhere, but just think about maybe serving in Harvest Kids a little bit. And lastly, our children are our next generation. And if we aren't teaching them the biblical truth and teaching them how to serve, teaching them their passions and their gifts, we live in a society where it's all about me, me, me. And so if we're not doing all of that, they will have a mindset of me, me, me. Instead, let us teach them how to serve others. And so that Jesus can shine through our kids, and our kids as friends will be asking, why are you different? Why are you so happy? Why are you helping this kid that isn't very nice to you? Why would you do that? And that is when our kids will have an opportunity to share the gospel and hopefully eventually invite them to church. And then who knows? I've seen parents get saved through kids. And so kids are not too young to share the gospel. So that is all I have.
You're fired. No. And did I say four-headed beast? I meant four-headed cherub. Cherub. You're just, you guys can decide which face you are of the four. But Thank you. I'll quickly run through some other opportunities. We've got some absences here, but I'm going to try to do every semester a Harvest Kids sponsored LFBI watch party class where we'll have class. We just did children's and youth ministry, but I know the next time intro to biblical counseling, I'm definitely going to jump on that. And we'll pay for your way to come, whether it's an 8-week class or 16-week class. So, man, that's an opportunity. Wedge Strong, we've had probably a half dozen couples go to Wedge Strong over the last couple years. And so that we will probably continually try to drive a shuttle or van out there to make that trip. And then, parenting conference this week. And then the next set of opportunities, and I skimmed over Man Camp, but man, come to Man Camp. Where are my guys at? Oh, Jewel, I haven't seen you there ever. Just it's not even camping. I know it's camping, but man, I've been camping. Man Camp is like glamping, but man, all church retreat, gotta go. There's a lot of times throughout the Bible, especially Garrett can tell you, your kids can come with you to put Bibles together through Word First Publishing, and that happens all throughout the year. I need to get a more organized crew, but it's like it always happens during Man Camp, and so timing sometimes pretty tricky. But HBC worship nights, Brandon are going to continually do those probably twice a year, and man, it's such a good family activity. And then Mexico next year will be kind of a more family-style mission trip. So if you want to go on a mission trip as a family, be praying about Mexico. With that, our wrap for the day and to pray us out will be Alan, so he can start making his way up here. But man, again, thank you guys so much. This is a night like tonight. It's kind of like preaching to the choir. You guys are amazing stewards. You're amazing parents, but we all know we can all get better for sure. But except this guy, obviously, perfect father-in-law. He's so perfect. He doesn't need
make it easier on the sound people, maybe. So go ahead and stand. And if this were Brooklyn Tabernacle, we would have, some deacon up here leading in a very loud voice. And every one of you would be praying out loud simultaneously. And I'm all for that. It's just that we're not used to doing it, and so, you can feel, inhibited or self-conscious about it. So we won't do that. Another option I thought about tonight was, let's just, I want to actually lead in prayer, so how about if you prayed after me out loud? But, a lot of people can feel self-conscious about that too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lead us in prayer, and I'm going to slowly go through phrase by phrase so that in your heart making contact to God, that I am leading you in prayer for our kids and as parents, those of you who are parents. And, I think this is the greatest thing because you're getting, we're setting aside for a minute all the technical stuff. You can get in anybody's book anywhere. And instead, really looking at it from a spiritual standpoint, laying a foundation for what we want to do and continue to do, not just this summer, but from now on. So if you would, let's at least do this. Paul talks about lifting holy hands. So just close your eyes, put your hands up to God, and in your heart, just pray along with me. Heavenly Father, I ask for every child in this church that they would feel the power of Jesus. I pray that they would turn to you, Lord, in the course of a day, that in their heart they would just respond to you. Whatever they go through, that they would pray. Lord, I ask that they would not just be safe. I pray that they'd have a sense and a feeling of safety in walking with you, because that's what will give them peace. And in that peace, they will have power to follow you. So, Lord, I ask for those of us especially who are parents, but for all of us and for our kids, help us walk in the Spirit. And Lord, I know we can only do that by conquering ourselves. So I pray, as adults, help us put down our own flesh. Help us put down ourselves. Help us put down our selfishness so that our kids will be able to do it in their lives. Lord, help them put down every sin. Help us drive out every evil imagination. There's so much in social media that tempts us in that direction. So help us bring every thought into captivity to Christ. Lord, don't let our kids live like children of the devil. Do not let us or them serve our own affections or lusts. God, we don't want our kids to go after the world. And Father, I ask in closing that you would give them a spirit of holy boldness, that they would be bold about their faith, bold about their Bible, bold about the things that they learn here, bold about the things that they see in our lives. Lord, let us escape that spirit of bondage. So, Father, I pray that you would hear the prayers of our children. And Father, tonight as we close, we ask you to help us, because our eyes are upon you. We ask it in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Okay, we got snacks in the back. Anything else we need to say or do? We have snacks in the back for everybody. Kids have a snack that they're getting, and so feel free to hang around and socialize. See you back Wednesday night. It will be at 6:30. I will have food here. We will have food, more than just snacks, by 6 if you need to come straight from work. So love you. See you then.